Chapter 6 Grumbot. Grian. Grian landed on a large white platform off the coast of the shopping district. Mumbo was already there waiting for him. Beth followed him in his landing soon after. Grian began to root through his pockets and started pulling out shulker boxes. Shulker boxes were a strange device, to be sure. You couldn't move a chest, they were too heavy. But if you put any item in a shulker box, it was easy transportation. You could dye them any color too, which helped with sorting. The boxes Grian brought were filled with all manner of redstone components. Dust, repeaters, comparators, everything they would need. That along with a lot of concrete. Beth, today we are going to build a foolproof strategy to win this election, Grian proclaimed. What's your plan? Beth asked. We're going to use these components to build a robot, and it will tell us what to do. But I thought that was your job as campaign manager. Grian fell silent. He hadn't thought of that. Was he about to build his own replacement? I'm in too deep now. Let's go! Good times with Scar. Scar had successfully gathered 3 wither skeleton skulls from the tragedy with Doc. When combined with the soul sand from the Nether Valley, they would conjoin into a terrible 3-headed beast called the Wither. It was extremely powerful and dangerous, but killing it would grant you a Nether Star, a powerful artifact that when infused with an obsidian base and glass cover made a beacon, granting anyone within its range powerful effects. Scar was originally going to use the beacon for himself, but Bdubs came up with an idea that if he promised to fill the shopping district with beacons, he might get ahead in the polls. It was worth a shot. He was currently trailing badly to Mumbo just based on his whimsy alone. Scar was going to fight the Wither down in his mines. It was a common strategy for fighting this beast. By restricting its movements, it couldn't get away and cause any unwanted destruction. Scar mined out a square room to begin the fight in. He carefully laid out the sand in a T shape and then placed the skulls on top of the horizontal line, one after the other. When he placed his final skull, the monster began to emerge. The wind swirled around him as the skulls started levitating and fusing with the sand to form the Wither. Its 3 skeleton heads, connected together by a long black spine with a protruding ribcage, glared at Scar. Scar froze. He forgot what he was supposed to do. Should he hit the thing with his sword or shoot it with his bow? The Wither knew what it wanted to do, though. It summoned another, non-sentient skull in front of it and fired it at Scar. Scar screamed as he was blown apart and the world went black. Night Light. Light laid in her bed awake. She built when she was happy, and she built when she was stressed. Her giant wooden heart was a stress build. The heart turned out nice. It was a simple shape, an oak platform with wheels. The inside was tall, so she hung a small chandelier from the ceiling. It was made of a few gold blocks and end rods. On one half of the heart she put her living quarters, bed, chest, crafting table, and in the front she put her driver's seat. Of course the thing couldn't drive for real, it was just for decoration. She wanted to cuddle something, but all she could hold were her sheets. Just dyed wool with nothing else. All she could see and hear was Doc being engulfed by the abyss and the slimy slopping noise it made when it spit out his bones. Light thought about Beth. They hadn't spoken since the incident. They were both too traumatized. She should go visit her. Ah! Light's thoughts were interrupted by Scar's terrified scream. Light sat up in her bed and looked out her window. Sure enough, Scar was running past her backyard and being chased by a Wither. Light jumped out of bed and ran to grab her diamond sword off the wall. She ran outside to see Scar hiding behind a tree as the Wither closed in on him. It had its shield up. When that monster had its shield up, the only way to hurt it was through a close contact sword strike. She did have one other option though, one she saw Beth do 100 times, so how hard could it be? Light drew her sword and swung it around before releasing it and sending it flying into the back of the Wither's central head. The Wither cried out in pain as it fell on its back and died, instantly decaying into a pile of black bones. Scar emerged from his hiding spot and walked over to the corpse. "Thank you so much," he said. "I've been trying to kill that thing all day when it broke through my mines and followed me up here." "Well, we could all use a beacon now and then." "Oh, the beacon's not for me," Scar said as he reached into the corpse to pull out the Nether Star. "I was going to use it to give people at the center of the shopping district swiftness." "You were going to give away a beacon?" "Of course. Nothing matters more to me than my community of hermits. And, if I become mayor, I'll get the resources to make hundreds of beacons." "Do you think you can stop Technoblade in the abyss?" "No, not alone. That's why I'll be relying on my cabinet to guide me through this serious threat." Scar would make the perfect mayor. He was generous and compassionate, and he knew how to rally people to his side. But was she really about to put all her faith in the biggest goofball in all of hermit history? The man lived in a snail for crying out loud. Well, at least he was taking the race seriously. She had seen the roads in the shopping district and was eager to vote for her favorite design. Meanwhile, people like False and Mumbo were only running for the sake of it. Scar would make a great mayor. It was just missing one thing. "Scar," Light said, "how do you feel about some new clothes?" Boss Beth. Beth had never built a robot before, much less one intelligent enough to be a campaign advisor. But she had to admit that by following Mumbo and Grian's instructions, she was proud of what she had created. They called it Grumbot. The massive machine was built from the waist up. with several buttons used to power him up. The money was all in the face. A slightly pushed-back screen for a face with big round eyes and a massive mustache. It towered over them, but stood ready for testing. Mumbo stood by the controls as Beth and Grian eagerly listened to his instructions. Right, there are 4 buttons that must be pressed in order. The first is Prime Grumbot. Mumbo pressed the first button. The second is Bootload Brain. Mumbo pressed the second button. The third is Flood Mayor Reservoir. Before Mumbo could press the button, Grian cut him off. Flood Mayor Reservoir? What's that even mean? Those reservoirs, man. You gotta get them flooded. And mayoral. We may be the first humans ever to use that sequence of words. The group burst out laughing. They knew they were right and how ridiculous this concept was. When Mumbo was able to gather himself once more, he said, Right, the next one is Insert Question Diamond. Question diamond? Beth asked. Yes, like so. Mumbo then proceeded to hold up a diamond with the words, What should we do? Engraved on it. Mumbo, you've made a machine that we need to pay to use, Beth exclaimed. Upon this realization, the group burst out laughing once more. Mumbo eventually found the strength to insert the diamond into a slot, and the machine got to work. Grumbot rumbled. He beeped, he booped, he bopped. He calculated until his mustache wiggled on the screen and it spat out a piece of paper. Beth picked up the paper and read it aloud. Vote for Mumbo, it said. Well, we know that, Grian exclaimed as he pulled out an anvil and a chisel. Grian quickly got to work pulling out a diamond and chiseling a new question into it. He then inserted the diamond into Grumbot. I asked him if he could say anything else, Grian proclaimed. Grumbot's mustache wiggled again, but his eyes shifted to a look slightly irritated as it spat out another piece of paper. Beth picked it up and read it aloud once more. Yes, but Grumbot doesn't want to. I think you insulted his intelligence a little, Grian, Mumbo chimed in. Oh no, you're right, Grian exclaimed. Let me try, Beth joined in, eager to make first contact with this machine. Beth walked over to Grian's anvil and pulled a diamond out of her shulker box she had been using for her wallet. She chiseled her question into the diamond. Do you have a campaign strategy for us? Beth walked over to the slot and inserted the diamond. Grumbot's face went back to its normal position as it spat out another response. But this time, it was not a paper, but a music disc. Mumbo picked up the disc. Does anyone have a jukebox? He asked. I do, said Beth as she pulled out her jukebox. She liked to play Light's favorite songs to calm her down, so she had a jukebox and a shulker full of music discs on her at all times. Mumbo played the disc, and an obnoxious beat started to play, something you would only hear at the start of a circus parade. An AI-sounding voice then began to sing, Mumbo Jumbo, vote for Mumbo, Mumbo Jumbo, vote for Mumbo, Mumbo Jumbo, vote for Mumbo, Mumbo Jumbo for the mayor of the town, Mumbo. The song ended and the group was left speechless. It was the perfect blend of infectious and annoying that might end up sticking in people's heads long enough until they get to the polls on election day. Finally, Grian spoke. Grumbot's a genius. This is the best and worst thing ever, Beth said. It's time to show people what we've created, proclaimed Mumbo. With the enthusiastic agreement, the three flew off towards the unsuspecting consumers of the shopping district. Their first target was Bdubs. He was in Grian's shop, which by now had expanded into a massive floating barge with a glass roof. Almost like a greenhouse, except for the 2 floors of products. Bdubs was just looking to replenish his stone supply for a massive project he was working on while the trio of Grian, Mumbo, and Beth hid on the opposite wall, outside the store. Beth quietly placed down her jukebox as Grian inserted the disc. First came the stinger. Then, Mumbo Jumbo, vote for Mumbo, Mumbo Jumbo, vote for Mumbo, Mumbo Jumbo, vote for Mumbo, Mumbo Jumbo for the mayor of the town, Mumbo. Bdubs was so scared that he almost passed out. He started going crazy in the store, looking everywhere for a hidden jukebox. Grian removed the disc and played it again. Mumbo Jumbo, vote for Mumbo, Mumbo Jumbo, vote for Mumbo, Mumbo Jumbo, vote for Mumbo, Mumbo Jumbo for the mayor of the town, Mumbo. Bdubs started to think he was losing his mind. Was someone there? He quickly exited the store and made a run for it. One more time that horrid song rang out. Mumbo Jumbo, vote for Mumbo, Mumbo Jumbo, vote for Mumbo, Mumbo Jumbo, vote for Mumbo, Mumbo Jumbo for the mayor of the town, Mumbo. Bdubs furiously turned around to see Grian, Beth, and Mumbo standing behind him with a jukebox laughing their heads off. No, Bdubs screamed. I will not vote for Mumbo. I will vote for Scar. Bdubs flew off in a tizzy as the others laughed and laughed. Beth couldn't remember the last time she'd been this at ease. Grian and Mumbo were fun to be around, but it was more fun to get Bdubs all worked up. She needed to pull pranks more often. Below 100. Bdubs had to prepare. He was meeting vintage beef in an open field to trade 2 shulkers of smooth stone for a shulker of bricks. It may have seemed like a bit of a lopsided trade, but bricks were 4 times as expensive as regular stone in large quantities. Plus, they were a nightmare to get if you didn't trade with villagers. Bdubs landed in front of him on the hill. It was getting dark out, so he needed to make the trade fast. "I got your bricks," Beef said as he placed down a shulker box, his large beard moving with his chin. It was so dark out that I could barely see the bloodstains on his apron. "Can I ask you what you're using them for?" "Well," Bdubs began as he inspected the product, "Scar, Grian, and I will be working together to build a town hall for the shopping district. When the mayor is elected, they will be able to decorate it as they please." "Well, good luck with that. I just need stone for my base." Bdubs looked up from his inspection. Every last brick was accounted for. "All right, well, as promised, here you go." Bdubs pulled out his 2 shulkers of stone and tossed them over to Beef, who gladly picked them up. "And I'm sure we can count on your vote for Scar this coming election," Bdubs added on. "He'll get my support when he stops licking diamonds." Beef flew off, leaving Bdubs in shock. All he could manage to say was, "What?" Then Bdubs realized there was only one place Beef could have gotten info like that. He flew off, desperate to get to the shopping district. Just as the sun was about to say goodnight, Bdubs landed in front of the Hermit Herald, the Hermit newspaper. He ran inside and took a look at the latest headline. "Mayoral candidate Scar caught licking diamonds." And sure enough, under it was an anonymous eyewitness account of them spotting Scar licking a large diamond pile that was being used to hold the money the hermits had spent on land purchases in the shopping district. Damage control! Damage control! Bdubs needed to do damage control yesterday. This would be a disaster for the polls. He needed to notify Scar immediately. Where was Scar anyway?